In the mountains of northeast India, tucked inside one of the most fertile valleys on earth, lives a people who have called this land home for centuries, the Apatani of Arunachal Pradesh. Their story is one of the ingenuity, tradition, and survival, but for most outsiders who encounter them, it begins with a question written on the faces of the tribe's elders. Why did these women mark themselves this way? The answer, as with most things in history, is far more layered than it first appears. The Apatani are an indigenous tribal community numbering around 60,000 people, living primarily in the Zero Valley, a UNESCO World Heritage candidate site, at an altitude of roughly 1,500 meters above the sea level. Unlike many hill tribes, the Apatani never needed to be nomadic. They mastered something extraordinary, a sophisticated form of wetland paddy cultivation that allowed them to produce more rice per hectare than almost any farming community in the region, without fertilizers, without irrigation machineries, and without modern technology. Their terraced fields, fish ponds, and managed pine forests are today studied by ecologists as examples of sustainable farming that predate the modern environmental movement by centuries. They are a people of remarkable intelligence and discipline, and they developed their own belief system, Donipolo, a nature religion that worships the sun and moon as supreme forces. But it is not their farming or their religion that draws outsiders to YouTube searches and travel documentaries. It is the face of their elder women. A dark vertical tattoo running from the center of the forehead down to the tip of the nose and inserted in both nostrils, large, flat, circular plugs of cane stretching the nostrils walls outward in a dramatic and distinctive way. These plugs were called yapung, and in Apatani culture, they were not considered marks of punishment or shame. Within the community, they were marks of beauty. The practice began in early childhood, sometimes as young as 5 or 6 years old. Girls would have their nostrils pierced and the plug gradually expanded over time. The facial tattoo was inked using a traditional method: thorns, soot, and steady hands. By the time a girl reached adolescence, the markings were complete. They were hers for life. The last generation of women to receive these markings are now elderly, most in their 70s, 80s, and maybe beyond. The youngest among them received their markings in the early 1970s, before the Indian government discouraged the practice. So, this tradition is not being passed on. When these women are gone, it goes with them. Ask any Apatani elder or any travel guide in Zero why these women were marked, and you will almost always hear the same story. The Apatani women were beautiful, and their beauty was according to oral tradition, both a gift and a curse. Neighboring tribes, particularly the Nishi people, were said to raid Apatani villages specifically to abduct women. The raids were frequent, violent, and deeply destabilizing for a community that prided itself on peaceful, settled existence. And so, according to this tradition, Apatani men made a painful decision. They would mark their women in ways that outsiders would find unattractive. The nose plugs would distort their appearances. The tattoos will set them apart. What raiding parties sought beauty by their standards will be deliberately obscured. It is a story that travels well. It has been repeated in newspapers, documentaries, travel blogs, and social media captions for decades. But historians and anthropologists urge caution. The protection from abduction story is what scholars call an origin myth, a narrative a community develops over time to explain a practice that may have begun for entirely different reasons. The problem with taking it at face value is this: the markings were done to young girls not adult women. If the goal was deterrence against raids, why begin the process on a 5-year-old child? And why within the community were these markings considered beautiful? A more holistic reading of the evidence points to several other functions, all of which likely existed simultaneously. First, identity and ethnic marking. Across human history, body modification has served as one of the most powerful ways a community says we are us. The Apatani tattoo and nose plug marked a woman as Apatani, not Nishi, not Adi, not any other tribe. In a region of dense tribal diversity, that distinction mattered enormously. Secondly, it was a rite of passage. The markings were administered during childhood and adolescence, precisely the period when coming-of-age rituals occur in most culture. The pain endured, the transformation undergone, these were markers of maturity, readiness, and belonging. And thirdly, beauty on their own terms. Within a Apatani society, the larger the nose plug, the more aesthetically refined the woman was considered. This was not a culture hiding its women, it was a culture celebrating them according to its own standard, which simply diverged sharply from those of its neighbors. Fourth, spiritual protection. Some oral traditions link the markings to a spiritual belief that the tattoo and plugs offered protection from malevolent forces, aligned the body with ancestral blessings, and connected the wearer to the divine principles of Donipolo. What we can say with confidence is this: the markings were not imposed as punishment, they were received as belonging. So, in the 1970s, the Indian government began actively discouraging the practice. Officials framed it as harmful, backward, and remnant of a more primitive time. The Apatani, who had navigated colonial pressure, missionary influence, and national integration for decades, complied, or perhaps more accurately, they adapted. The younger generation made their own choices, and the tradition quietly ceased. Today, the women who bear these markings are the last of their kind. There is something profound about sitting across from a woman whose face carries the full weight of her culture's history. A history that outsiders once saw as strange, and that her own government once called primitive, but that she has worn every day of her life without apology. Many of these women, when asked, express pride, not defiance. Just a settled, quiet pride. This is who I am, this is where I come from. The Apatani Valley itself was nominated for UNESCO World Heritage status, a recognition that the very civilization outsiders once dismissed contains within its century of ecological wisdom, social sophistication, and cultural depth. The women of the Apatani tribe did not tattoo their faces to hide. They marked themselves to be seen, to be known as who they were within a world that constantly threatened to erase the distinction. Whether that marking began as protection, as identity, as beauty, or as all three at once, it was ultimately an act of belonging, a permanent declaration. I am part of something that exists before me and will outlast me. The last generation of tattooed Apatani women is aging. Within our lifetimes, this visual thread to a centuries-old tradition will be gone. But the Apatani are not gone. They are still in Zero Valley, still farming in ways that astonish ecologists, still practicing Donipolo, still weaving, still building, and still teaching their children who they are. Some traditions end, but the people who carry them do not.